Hey guys, it's Sam, and this is my spoilery gush on Grey Sister by Mark Lawrence. As I said, this video will have spoilers in it, so if you haven't read this book, go ahead and check out my spoiler-free review, which we linked on the screen. So as I said, my review and my wrap-ups, and every time I talk about this series, I struggle to remain coherent when talking about it because I love it so much. And I did read it fairly recently, but typically speaking, when I finish a book, I'm able to kind of get some distance from it. This, I'm still in it. You know, I'm still thinking about it. I'm still loving it. So I'm really just gonna go into mostly the character stuff here to just gush about all the character stuff and how that also connects to the world stuff. But to briefly touch on the world stuff, I find this world so interesting. I find the ship heart thing so interesting. It's like, okay, it's sort of like the science fiction thing because they came to this world on ships, which I feel like are spaceships, but did they come from our world? Did they come from another world? And like, is it a sci-fi? I mean, it's mostly a fantasy, but there's sort of like this sci-fi element with these ship hearts. And like, what is that exactly? So I really like this kind of like science fiction fantasy melding that it does. It's a trope that I'm starting to see a little bit more of that's becoming more popular in fantasy, and I enjoy it highly. So the whole thing with like the moons and it's a satellite and the ice and all of that, I enjoy that. And I enjoy learning more about all these different magics that are available to them. I don't understand how most of them work. I don't understand how the path works for the most part. I don't understand how her blades like work, but I'm fine with it. I love it. I love the speed and how like the different clans have different powers and what all of that means with the blood mixing and all, like I just love it. And I forgive some of the like murkiness of the descriptions of it because I think he's describing it as best that he can, but it's so unique that it's like, okay, fine. I'm rolling with this. I'm totally fine with where this is going. This is interesting to me. So first off, we have the addition of Kiat as this devil that's in Nona. Let me just sidetrack for a second. Of people who've been watching my channel for a long time, I would not have been able to read this series probably without anxiety medicine because all of these people having devils in them is just like usually above my level of being able to deal. But since I've been on anxiety medicine for a couple of years now and I play things like Dragon Age that technically have like demons coming out of holes in the sky, I'm a little bit better than I used to be. But oh man, do I recognize that this would have been an issue a couple of years back. But yeah, we have this character who becomes slightly appealing and almost like this friend to Nona, and it's like, what? And the narrator for the audiobook makes his voice like so horrible. She's just like, nah, like she makes it really nasally and grating. But by the time he's leaving, you're like, oh, I kind of miss him. And like she kind of misses him, and it's kind of this like thing because he becomes this parasitic helper to her. You know, there's times when she's being tortured that he like helps her see or helps in some way. And so you're kind of like, oh, now that he's missing, like what's gonna happen? And I don't think we've seen the end of him at all, but I'm definitely intrigued for how he's gonna come back around and what exactly he is, because remember Zol was saying that the devils aren't really devils and that they're part of the missing, but we haven't really gotten much clarification on what exactly that means. So interested about that. And what Yish's situation is going to be, since she has, well, Yish and Zol now, because of like touching it. Zol has a little devil now. Yish has like a million. What is going on? So all of that with the ship hearts. And if these things are technology, why are there devils? Like, I just need to know what what all of that is. You know, I'm intrigued. I think it'll take till the end of the series before we find any of that out, but I'm intrigued. Speaking of Zol, I love her. And how she's this like hard, no feelings person, but a couple times in here you kind of see her open up and maybe almost smile or smile in a way that she would smile, and that Nona is a friend of hers and she's being as defensive of Nona as Nona is with some of her other friends. And I really appreciate that. I just really like how this series has done this a few times now. Like with Ara in the first book, you think that she's a certain kind of way and then it turns out that she's a sweet bean. With Zol, you feel like she's a certain way and now she's turning out to be different. I just really like how they introduce these different characters and make you change your mind about them throughout the series. And she is a huge badass. I really want her and Nona to go to the ice and figure some of that stuff out. So I think they're going to take a trek at some point, and I'm very interested for when that happens. Also, can we talk about probably I want to say my second favorite character, but like Nona, Glass, Zol, Apple, Kettle being the one I was going to talk about, but like I love them all so much. So Kettle taking a like main character role in this book pleases me so highly. The fact that we got to kind of be in her perspective through their shadow bond, or it's not shadow bond, it's a thread bond, was great. I like how that was implemented, where it's like another POV but not really, and you get to see what's going on and all that kind of stuff. Pushed into shadow, her and Apple's relationship, how she's all dark and twisty now. I feel very passionate about it, and I love her as a character, and I love her friendship with Nona and what they all mean to one another, and how she has this like ex-lover like Saphira who tried to kill her. Like all of the drama that Kettle has been messed up in throughout her life makes me love her that much more. So I touched on this, I think in my review or my wrap-up, I don't actually know because I'm filming these back to back, but villains in this series, oh man, I just love how complex and real they feel, because they don't feel like these caricatures, they don't feel like these magical entities, they all feel like people who are very real. The different cis lords who are just causing problems feel like real characters. Duelli as this mean girl is like, oh, you want to wring her neck, but she like, you get her in a way, like you don't empathize with her, but like you've seen those people, you know these people, you probably knew them in middle school, but like you know them, and she is so that character, and she's brilliant but such a pain in the ass, and I love that. I am a little mad at Nona for not actually killing the Lord, is it Lord Taxus? I'm pretty sure. The whole thing about the flesh bond with the hurt, though, smart. But I'm not sure if he's like completely dead. Obviously in the epilogue, you sort of hear from his son that he's been done in, but you don't know if that's right during this book or if that happens between when that's happening with these like flash forward scenes that we're getting at the beginning and end of the book. But I kind of like, whenever a character doesn't kill one of the villains, I'm like, this is a mistake. So I'm a little nervous about that. But I really like all of these villains in the way that I like love to hate them, and that they feel so real and fully fleshed out to me. And I really like the political intrigue that goes on with these books, and like the machinations and stuff, particularly with Glass. There's times that I wanted to cheer because of her different things that she did, and the way that she set things up with like Chazal, because she wanted to put Chazal on trial, and like, oh man, oh, she reminds me, I picture the woman from Highgarden, the grandma from Game of Thrones, whose name I'm totally forgetting. I'm not gonna look it up right now because I don't feel like it, and you'll probably tell me in the comments, but that's what I picture. Also very intrigued, not one of the things I care about a ton, but I almost feel like there's a Nona, Ara, Regal love triangle happening. Like, Nona obviously has a little crush on Regal, but I think she obviously also has a little crush on Ara. So like, what's gonna happen there? I do like that. I do like all of that. I do like all of that. And the fact that it's like not a big thing. It's commented on ever so slightly, but it's not like super focused on. I dig it. So yeah, a lot of stuff is happening. Nona's officially like a gray, or she's passed like her gray test, or a mistress of her shade trial. I forget what it was called because it happened at the very beginning of the book almost. But she passed her shade trial. She's allowed to come back now. Stuff's happening. Zol has a ship heart that's not her ship heart, and she has a devil, and Nona doesn't have a devil, and her friends, and one of her other friends died. All of her friends are dying. Please someone save Ara because she can't die. And there's a lot of things happening. So I don't even know what to expect from the next book. I think the next book's probably gonna be what, Mystic Sister, I'm assuming. So I cannot wait for this next book. Like, I am so engrossed in this world, and I'm very happy with where it's going. So comment below and let me know your thoughts on Grey Sister. I'm sure I've left some things out and some situations out, but like that's my general thoughts, and I love all of it. So feel free to talk to me about all of it in the comments. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see all of you guys soon. Bye.